stuff?
Yes, if you read, Ryan Selkis's latest Messari report, crypto has benefited from the lack of regulatory clarity, right? And that's his view, and that's always been my view. So to some extent, regulators have actually had a very favorable stance towards crypto, right? So
Hmm.
William Hinman essentially declared ETH as sufficiently decentralized, right? So then CFTC before that declared Bitcoin a commodity. So regulators are often, people, everybody likes to point at regulators and say they're stopping innovation, and there is some truth to that, right? I think the new regime in the US is a little bit unfriendly. It's quite sometimes very unfriendly, but I think overall this willingness of regulators to let the innovators experiment is how we got here, right?
But
So if, yeah,
Okay.
and I think we should recognize that.
do you think, okay, so let's take, for example, the new regime in the US. Do you think that their caution with regard to DeFi and crypto, or whatever word, do you think their caution with regards to it is unwarranted and irrational? Or do you think that, Gary Gensler is doing his job, in that his job as the regulator is to oversee, risk in financial markets, and if the DeFi system evolves to undermine that authority, then effectively he'd be failing at his job if he didn't do something to control it?
So regulation exists in a political environment, right? So behind all regulation there is politics.
Hmm.
So because remember Bob Diamond, and Bob was the star of apple of everyone's eyes, and then Barclays had this LIBOR crisis, and the same politicians who were supporting him were essentially going after him. So we've got to a very, crypto is now a 3 trillion industry. You cannot say, oh, just leave us alone and we'll do whatever we want. That's not done. It was fine when it was, 1 trillion in under 1 trillion market cap, most of it Bitcoin, a playground of the devs. It was perfectly fine. Now, so is Gary, and the other agencies, is Mr. Gensler and the other agencies going about this the right way? No, not at all. I mean, they picked Uniswap and Compound. I mean, nobody went after Shiba Inu and Cardano and all those exchange-owned chains. I mean, they're going after the people who are actually innovating and building stuff. So it's, I mean, is it right to bring attention and say, look, we need to create standards and we need to create new regulation and new reg tech so that the objectives of regulation, which are consumer protection, market transparency, financial stability, those are achieved? Yes, absolutely. We need to pursue those together, right? But are they going after the right targets and in the right way? Absolutely not. I think people are, we just, I mean, out of the 3 trillion crypto, you find Uniswap and Compound, really? I mean,
But as far as I understand it,
really?
one of the reasons they picked Uniswap was not Uniswap the protocol, it's Uniswap the front end, which is more of
Yeah.
a kind of organization that they can get their teeth into. So I think one of the reasons that the regulators have been slow or cautious is because a lot of their kind of legislative framework that they work within is designed around kind of the concept of firms and appointed representatives and boards and all sorts of kind of centralized governance that ultimately can't get its teeth into these kind of totally decentralized protocols. But in the case of Uniswap, there is a front end UI which it kind of does look a lot more like an institution that they can get their teeth into, which I think is why they've kind of why they've headed towards it.
So my point was that, out of the 3 trillion, there is a 32 billion market cap thing called Shiba Inu out there, which adds absolutely zero value to society. I mean, I'm sure there will be people on the other side of that argument as well. There are actually multi-level marketing schemes. There is absolutely useless technology which contributes nothing to innovation or society. And you pick really the one, useful app. Something feels off about that, right? So regulation that we have today is, so how did we get to today's regulation? Because we had all these accidents with Wall Street, right? Somebody screwed something up, and then we created new rules. So there is a market failure. We patch it up with new rules. So as a result, over 100 plus years now, we have ended up with and a mountain of rules on top of rules, and sometimes mutually conflicting rules.
Hmm.
It's impossible for even a bank, and I used to work for banks, yeah, and doing reg change and all that. So
Hmm.
it's impossible for banks to comply with those rules, and now you're imposing those a mountain of paperwork on technology that's supposed to be paperless. I mean, maybe we need to work together and create new rules. So there are 2 points. One, the rules aren't ready for the markets and the tech that's being created. The rules need to change, and because we can achieve the same objectives with better tech and fewer less paper. The second thing is that I don't think the agencies are picking the right targets. I mean, these targets might make their careers, or make them because Uniswap is sort of the biggest DApp, and it's the most successful, one of the most successful Web3 dApps out there. So you pick that as a to make an example. But I mean, are those the right people to go after? Are innovators the right people you want to disincentivize with regulation? I mean, really.
I,